Hello everyone. It has been a long time since I put out a video, and that is only because the market has been quite busy for me. So I apologize to all 33 of my YouTube followers, but I'm going to try to summarize, sort of what's happened from January 1st, 2024 until sort of the end of April. And so the market in Toronto right now, and you can get various media reports that make it sound like it's an amazing market, and others that say that it's all doom and gloom. And the reality is right now the Toronto real estate market is very much a tale of two cities. On one hand, you've got the condo market, and the condo market is in a very bad place right now. And it has been, really from the late 2022 all through 2023 and now into 2024. But that seems to be exaggerated right now too, as interest rates have been very stubborn at staying high. The Bank of Canada has not lowered rates in a long time. And so we're seeing an influx of additional listings to the condo market, mostly driven by investors who were, doing their best to hold on to their products for as long as possible, hoping that interest rates would find their way down. But at some point, something has to give. And a lot of those investors who were, hitting negative cash flows, hitting the point of having a lot of negative cash flow, are now being forced to sell and offload some of their product. That being said, there are still segments of the condo market that are doing just fine. If you have a unique hard loft building, if you have a large unit in a more boutique building, those are still doing fine. The ones that are being hit hard right now are the units that the generic, 1 or 1 plus den, or the small 2 bedrooms in areas like City Place, Liberty Village, Distillery District. So that's the condo market. It's being crushed right now. It's not in a good spot. On the flip side is the freehold market. And the freehold market is performing very differently. And if we go back and kind of look back at January, at that point, I was surprised on how active, like towards late January into February, I was surprised how active the freehold market was. Because the reality is that the mortgage interest rates had not really changed. They'd come down a little bit. You could get at the time in January and February, 5-year fixed rates at 5.25%. Which was a nice relief from when we were only seeing 6%, throughout a lot of 2023. So interest rates had come down a little bit, but not much. And that didn't stop buyers from really jumping back into the freehold market. And so, from February and March, we really saw the freehold market really pick back up again. Most places, good homes in good areas were holding back offers. They were getting multiple offers. They were selling for strong prices. And we started seeing average prices tick up pretty quickly. And that may have been partially because, in April was the last Bank of Canada meeting. And at that meeting, in the few weeks leading up to that, it was speculated the Bank of Canada would have their first rate cut at that meeting. So there was thoughts that some buyers were trying to get ahead of the market. And so they thought if they could buy a place in January and February, they were timing it well before a rate cut in April that might then drive up prices. So you saw the market being quite active. Of course, now we know the Bank of Canada did not cut rates in April. And so that might have stifled the market a little bit. It is really hard to know, but it has been very obvious. The last 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, the freehold market has felt very different than it did in February and March. Good products, and by that I mean detached or semi-detached homes that are renovated in good neighborhoods are still selling, and the not so good product is not selling. But they're just not selling as fast as it was in February and March. I'm seeing a lot of houses, including some listings of my own, where you've tried to hold off offers at a lower price point, hold off offers for a week, try to get multiple offers and sell for over asking price and towards, hopefully above what you might even believe market value is. But I've seen a lot of places over the last 2 or 3 weeks trying that strategy, and it's simply not working. Of course, it does happen in some cases, but in most cases now, I'd say, this is just anecdotal, but maybe 30 or 40% of the times where I see people in the last few weeks holding off offers, it's not working. They're taking the house off the market and relisting the following day for a higher price, more towards what they believe is market value. So there has been a noticeable shift just in the last 4 weeks again, and things have, the market's taking a breath, and buyers have kind of seem to be recalibrating again and just see how things play out for the next few months. Now, so that sort of means then, so what happens over the next 6 months? And that is really, really hard to say. Again, there's two sides to look at it. On one side, The next Bank of Canada meeting is on June 6th. I think if June 6th is the Wednesday, it's whatever that Wednesday is, right around June 6th. That's the next Bank of Canada meeting. Right now, it sounds like the markets are pricing in an 80% chance that the Bank of Canada does, in fact, lower rates at that meeting. And if that holds true, and maybe we start getting more of the media reporting on that in the next week or two, we might see a resurgence of buyers coming back to the market and once again trying to get ahead of that rate cut. And so that could spark things, and that could leave, kind of finish off the spring market and head into the summer market and on a positive note. But on the other hand, there are some fears kind of going towards the latter half of this year. What if the Bank of Canada does not cut rates in June? That's going to be bad for the market because right now, again, a lot of people assume that they are going to cut rates. And if they don't cut rates, that's going to push buyers to the sidelines again. What happens if they don't cut rates and after the May long weekend, which is, 10 days from now, there's a massive influx of inventory. So if we have rates staying stubbornly high and a whole bunch more inventory, that could also stifle the market. And while we're talking about inventory, just as a small sidebar, currently at the end of April, there was 7,518 active listings in Toronto. That includes freeholds, that includes condos, townhomes, semis, that includes all housing types in Toronto. There was 7,500 active listings. There hasn't been that many active listings in Toronto going all the way back to the fall of 2020. And if you remember the fall of 2020, that was peak COVID. Now, back in 2020, the largest proportion of those listings back then was condos, and the same thing's happening right now. By far the largest percentage of those active listings, of those 7,500 active listings, most of those are condos by far. But it does create those fears that, if interest rates don't start coming down, and in which case we probably won't get much absorption of the current active listings, and if more is coming to market, it could, start to stifle price even further, and maybe we see prices slide a bit more. I think, in my opinion, I expect that sales will start to pick up again. I think the condo market still has some downside to it, particularly those more generic ones I talked about. I think that if we look over the next 6 months, that's a time where we probably will see some more loss in the condo market. And on the other side, I think the freehold market is just going to kind of chug along. Going all the way back to more or less July and August of 2022, the freehold market has been about the same price. It's going up and down, but it's just sort of hovering around that same average price. And I think that trend will continue here. So it is really hard to know what's going to happen. But I do think more buyers are going to move back to the sidelines. There's a lot of people, clients of my own, and just from conversation I've had, who are buyers who have been on the sidelines for a couple of years that want to buy a home and just haven't yet. And at some point, they're saying, it's time to move on here because I got to buy a home. Our family's outgrown our current home, or we need to downsize our homes, or we want to move cities, or we want to move from condo to a home, or whatever it may be. There's always reasons why people want to move. And I personally think that, that more buyers will start coming back to the market, that volume will increase. But I think that prices are going to, just kind of, for freeholds, just sort of stay flat for the next little while. But I think the biggest lesson here too, and this happened in 2023 as well, if you are a seller or a potential seller and maybe thinking about selling in the next 6 months or a year, it's time now to start having conversations with your realtor, with your builder, with your contractor, and start playing out what either minor or major tasks have to be taken on your house before it's ready to get on the market. Because there are times that you can really take advantage of a good market. And last year in 2023, February and March, the prices were the strongest. And this year in 2024, February, March, the prices were the strongest. And so, but if you wait until the market starts picking back up again, you often might miss that opportunity. So again, if you have a home that you're thinking about selling the next year or so, it's time to start having those conversations about what needs to be done to prepare that home and start taking on that work so that the next time the market does start picking up again and gets into a better place, you're ready to get your, whether it's a condo or a freehold home on the market. So that's sort of what's been happening over the last 3 or 4 months. Again, 2 different markets. The condo market's being crushed. The freehold market's doing okay. There's been a better freehold market a few months ago, but it's quite resilient right now, and I think it'll continue to get better over the next little while. I will watch the market as I always do. I will try to get back on track of doing these videos more frequently. But as always, if you have questions about your home, your neighbor's home, your general neighborhood, please give me a call, shoot me a DM. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye-bye.